like to call to order the Town Council regular session at 7:45, and the date is Monday, October 24th. If you could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could we have the roll call, please, Dale?
Council President Whaley.
Present.
Council Vice President McAtee.
Here.
Councilwoman Eddy.
Here.
Councilman O'Neill.
Here.
4 members present. Councilwoman Fogarty is absent.
Which brings us to the approval of the minutes of previous meetings. We have the work session of October 11th, 2011.
I move approval of those minutes.
Second.
We have motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 400. Next item is the regular session of October 11th, 2011.
I move approval of those minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 400. Would any town council member like anything removed from the consent agenda?
Actually, Ella, if I could, page 7, I'd like to remove the, let's see, where is the Portsmouth endorsed Richmond? That would be G, consent agenda G. Page 7.
Okay. Anyone else care to have anything removed?
I move approval of the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 400. Next item on the agenda is licenses. We have a resolution granting a miscellaneous permit to conduct the South County Food Fitness Fun Race on Sunday, April 22nd, 2012 at 9 o'clock in the morning to the URI Foundation, subject to the execution of a hold harmless agreement indemnifying the town, issuance of a certificate of insurance naming the town as an additional insured in the amount specified by the risk manager, and Rhode Island Department of Transportation approval. Application by Rachel Clow, coordinator, 12 High Street, Wakefield, Rhode Island, and this is a new license. Hi, Rachel. If you could come to the microphone, welcome. And Dr. Corcoran. Healthy fitness, rah-rah. If you could just tell us a little bit about what the plan is. You have the cameras.
Are you interested in hearing about the program itself or just the race?
If you want to give us a little update on both.
I'd like to, I'm Celeste Corcoran. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the program. Food, Fitness, and Fun originated about 2.5 years ago. It was a joint project study run by South County Hospital, URI Dietetics Department, some of the local pediatricians, Rachel Clow, Dr. Stephanie Marchand, working with the Dietetics Department at URI. And it's a study focused on the problem with overweight children in our community. The students in our program are between the ages of 7 and 10, and they're in the overweight to obese range. We run 2 different separate programs, one for children above the 85th to 95th percentile, and one which are technically categorized as children who are overweight, and children above the 95th percentile who are technically obese. The program was first funded through South County Hospital, and we ran 2.5 years of sessions. Each session was either in the fall semester or the spring semester. There were 2 groups of children in each session, and we've done very well. We have very good statistics, and it's a joint nutrition counseling and fitness program that's run once a week for 16 weeks. And it's done very well. Unfortunately, our funding was withdrawn by South County Hospital, and we've applied for several grants to try to get additional funding. For example, we went through Blue Cross Blue Shield, we went through the Rhode Island Foundation. Unfortunately, the children in our community are not viewed as being underserved, so some of the grants were really not we were never going to really get the funding. We didn't realize that. So we are still in search of grant funding. But in the interim, we are going to run a spring session. And in order to do that, part of our fundraising is to run this race. And Rachel can tell you a little bit more about the race.
The race will be a local 5K. We're going to do it as a family-run race, so we're also going to have a walking route. There'll be a running 5K and then a walking. We're calling it like a little mini 1K. And we are going to encourage whole families to do the race. As you know, it will be April 22nd, 9 o'clock in the morning. When I talked to the local police department, the only concern they had was possibly St. Francis Church getting out. And so I did speak with some people from the church, and it seemed like 9 o'clock was the best time. This is a route, the route we're using is a route that a Place to Grow daycare has used in the past. So we kind of followed their exact route, knowing that it's properly mapped and works with the town and the church and all of it. So we don't foresee any problems, and of course we'll have the race itself very well staffed. We have a lot of volunteers from URI and also the community volunteers. So it should be a really great day, and we don't foresee any trouble with it.
Sounds exciting.
Yes,
This
it
is
will
great.
be.
What is the funding that you're looking for to sponsor this, family, this dietetics by?
The program.
Yeah.
Essentially, we run approximately 20 children each session for 16 weeks, and there's 2 16-week sessions that run every year. And our budget at this point is about $18,000 for the whole year. We've stripped our budget down as far as possible. Most of the people donate their time, including myself, that we really have. Our major costs are the studio, Rachel's fitness time. There's a small stipend given to Dr. Green, who's one of the professors at URI. In the dietetics department, Dr. Stephanie Marchand also has a minimal stipend. The equipment that's used for the children, the free hula hoops and frisbees, and the food demonstrations. But the rest of the work is donated. The URI grad students are involved. We have our last session we ran in conjunction with the kinesiology department at URI as well, and they donated their time. So we really have great support for this. Unfortunately, it's been difficult to continue funding. It's a difficult time to get monies. The program is free to all the children who participate, and has been. And we have run quite a few children through, because we've been running it for 2.5 years. The planning process began probably about 3 to 3.5 years ago. And I became involved because Mr. Giancola, the president of the hospital, asked that I work with this program. And of course, obesity is another one of my things that I work to help with in what I do as a pediatrician, and I feel it's a very huge problem. There are about 35% of the children that we take care of in the state are in that overweight and obese group. That's a huge number. So that's how we started the program, and if at some point any of you would be interested in looking at our statistics that we have so far, it really is pretty impressive. So we have every intention of continuing to run this program, as we feel that it's been very worthwhile.
We're lucky to have both of you in our community. Questions here at the table? Polly?
Dr. Corcoran, do you consider obesity one of the leading problems for children?
It is.
Yeah, I wondered.
When you see those statistics at 35 to 40% of the children
Yes.
in Rhode Island, we're not talking about Alabama or South Carolina or Georgia. We're talking about Rhode Island children who really, our diets are somewhat better to a certain extent. And of course, we have a large population of educated people in our communities in Rhode Island, and those are the statistics, 35 to 40%.
And you said you had 2 sessions of 16 weeks each,
Yes,
and you had about 20 children in each of those sessions?
yes.
So it's about 40 children a year?
Yes.
Thank you.
And when we started this program, it was unique in that most of the programs address the dietary aspects alone. And we really wanted to encompass the whole family with nutrition and fitness, which was unique to the program, because a lot of these kids will get nutrition counseling, but to have it all as a whole has been great.
Carol?
Trying to get money for obesity program, I can't get it either. So
Yeah.
good luck to you,
It's very
too.
difficult.
Carol?
How do you locate the children? I mean, do the families do you get referrals from health care facilities, or the families just
Basically,
bring
the
them
whole
in?
process of this program was to get the physicians in our community involved. So all the physicians that work with children, be them family docs, pediatricians, have really been made well aware of the program, and they do the official referrals. The referrals come into our secretary, and then I do most of the follow-ups on the children, even if they're not my patients, because we felt that having the physician involvement, and the follow-ups involve heights and weights and measurements, the beginning of the program, the end of the program, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and 2 years later. So we have ongoing, intervention with the children. So when we see them a year later, if they're not doing quite as well, it gives us an opportunity to give them another positive boost in the right direction. And it is an ongoing study, so, that is part of our, our quest is to get some statistics to show that this kind of a program does work. Rachel does a phenomenal job with the kids and with the parents on teaching them that you can go out in your backyard and play Frisbee with your kid, and you know what? That's exercise. You don't have to be on a team. You don't have to be super competitive, but everybody can get exercise. And part of that session is the children actually exercising with their parents in games that she runs on the days. And the parents are a little reluctant, but they get involved.
Some of them hate it, but.
Some of them really hate it. But the children love to have their parents be a part of the fitness part of it. The nutritionist meets with the parents for about 45 minutes, and during that time, Rachel meets with the children, and then they switch. So the kids get to do a hands-on project, usually mentored by the URI students, and then the parents get to meet with Rachel and to ask questions and get suggestions, and it really is a phenomenal program. It's got to continue. I feel it's really important that we continue it.
That's great.
Just one more question. Now, how much is your entrance fee for the race?
Oh.
You have to charge something, isn't that
We
how you're
haven't
going to
gotten that far yet, to be perfectly honest with you.
We've tossed it around. We're going to be similar to all the road races, which I think there's like a pre-registration usually is like $20.
Right.
We're looking into also then having a family fee so that,
Nice.
we need to get approved first before we figure all that out. But we would definitely want to have, the pre-registration cost, the day of cost, and also a lesser fee to encourage whole families to come.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's what it'll be.
yeah.
Okay, further questions here at the table? Jim?
Yeah, how many families might participate if you put it all together? Just how many local families?
In the
would be
race
involved?
itself?
In the race itself.
I hope all of them.
But all of them being 50,
Well, we-
100, 200?
It's tough to say, it's tough to project. If we're very, very lucky, we hope to have 200 people. I know that's not 200 families, but, we hope to have a good turnout. I think what you end up doing when you have a road race, you have a group of runners that will run a lot of races regardless of what the cause is for. And then you'll have some people come out solely for this race. So it's tough to say, but I do hope to have at least 200.
But each year you've been adding a few more families
Yes.
to the race,
Yeah.
which is
Well,
the
I mean,
direction we'd like to see.
This is our first
Oh,
race.
this is your first, but
But to the program, yes, there's been a
Program.
lot of families coming. And the families are from all over Rhode Island. We had one family driving down from Situate, they're coming quite far to participate in the program, and hopefully they'll come back for the race.
well, that in itself says a lot of good things about your program.
Thank you.
So we're going to sign you up, Jim.
I move approval of license A.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 400, and we wish you the best of luck.
Great,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our second license is a resolution granting victualling and holiday sales license to, I hope I say this right, Casario Market LLC, 471 High Street, Unit 2, Wakefield, Rhode Island, subject to approval by the Union Fire District. Application by Tarek Eldarawali. I hope I,
Yeah.
did I do okay on that?
Yep. Did pronounce it
God, my
perfectly.
phonics worked. Unbelievable. It's 362 South County Trail, Exeter, Rhode Island, and this is a new license, and welcome.
Thank you.
So if you would just like to tell us a little bit about this market?
Well, you know, I thought that the neighborhood needs a convenience store. The same place I'm leasing right now was a convenience store a couple of years ago, and it went out of business. And I don't know why. You know, I have a lot of friends in this neighborhood, and I know that it's got a lot of potential to start something and not to be afraid. So hopefully I'll, you know, have it open up at 6 o'clock in the morning, close late at night, have coffee and everything for that, you know what I mean, for the neighbors. So hoping to get the license.
That's great. Questions here at the table?
Yeah.
Polly?
Will you be a full-blown market, or will you major on coffee and?
Well, let's say we're gonna have a little bit of everything. So we're gonna be like a small market, you know what I mean? But mostly, I don't think I'm gonna get fresh stuff, but I'll have a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Good.
Carol?
And have you had any of these stores before, any of these convenience stores?
Well, my partner did, but me, myself, I did work in a lot of them before. I managed a lot of them, so.
So it's going to be like a Cumberland Farms kind of thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Very good.
Unit 2, are we across from the Peacedale Fire Station?
Yeah.
All right, that's the old, okay.
That
Right,
is a great
That's all I needed
location.
to know, thank you.
I move approval of new license B.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 400, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good luck.
The third license tonight is a resolution granting a victualling license to East Greenwich Thai Cuisine Incorporated, doing business as Simply Thai, 99 Fortin Road, Unit 113, Kingston, Rhode Island, subject to approval by the Kingston Fire District and the Rhode Island Department of Health. Application by,
Come on,
and
Ella.
there's no way I'm going to even make an attempt. Sherrich?
Yes. Vichechot.
Chichot. Okay, it's just like it sounds. Welcome.
Thank
And
you.
if you would just like to tell us about East Greenwich Thai Cuisine?
Yes, East Grand Thai Cuisine, we're going to serve Thai food for the student mostly, and at a very low cost price. And we already have a Thai restaurant in Newport, Rhode Island, named Thai Cuisine. And that one we doing the high-end food, and we got actually the best of Newport 3 year running. We got the best of Rhode Island, and we got also the cheap eat they call Die Well on the Dime, something like that. Right. And this restaurant we try to do it some kind of low cost, serving student for self-service, and in the dinner time also have self-service, also have full service for the Thai food.
Very nice. Good. Questions here at the table?
Will this be mainly for, excuse me, Ella.
Okay, Paul, go.
Will this be mainly for students, did you
No,
say?
it's also for neighborhood,
Uh-huh.
yeah, for family actually, but the cost is very, very low.
Love Thai food.
Thank
Sounds
you.
great.
Carol?
When do you plan on opening? What's your,
Hopefully sometime next week,
oh, very good.
yes.
Jim?
Which leads to my question, who was this, who occupied this space before you?
The Papa Bistro,
Yes, okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. And did we state the hours?
What are your hours of operation?
about 10:30 until 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the evening, every day.
Very
Great.
good.
Great.
Monday through I mean, all 7 days a week?
Yeah, I hope.
Wow, good for you. You're gonna be
It
busy.
seems very quiet around here.
I move approval of new license C.
Do we have,
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries 400. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Which brings us now to page 6. So I'd like to open the public hearing. I believe that's where we're at. This is a public hearing to review and adopt the town's recommendations to the State Planning Council for the fiscal year 2013 through 2016 Transportation Improvement Program. The TIP is a multi-year capital improvement program of bicycle pedestrian, bridge, congestion management, air quality enhancement, highway, interstate, major projects, pavement management, planning, study and development, transit, administration, and earmark projects that are eligible to receive federal funding. I believe Vin's going to present.
Good evening. Tonight's public hearing is basically for the town to prioritize existing projects within the TIP that require prioritization, and also to entertain new projects for submittal for the TIP, which is a 4-year program, 2013 to 2016, the federal fiscal years. Just a couple of comments about the TIP. Under the current TIP that we're operating under, which is basically the capital program for transportation projects in the state is receiving approximately $210 million per year. Now they're projecting, based upon anticipated congressional or estimated congressional allocations under a new highway authorization bill, that the amount available to the state will drop to about $160 million a year, which is approximately a 24% drop in funding. And further complicating this is the fact that the state has certain obligations under the current TIP for major projects. For example, the Route 95 River Bridge replacement in Pawtucket, as well as borrowing the state did under what they call the Garvey program, which is a guarantee against future allocations. They used to fund the I-Way, for example. And I think based on what the state has provided with some orientation documents, that lessens the amount that would be available for the balance of the TIP to be about $80 million per year going forward. So the picture of funding is what they call it a fiscally constrained program, and it just shows that there'll be less money available across the board for these types of projects. Nonetheless, they are asking that the cities and towns prioritize existing projects and entertain new, and it is an important policy document and sometimes takes many years for a project to, from its first entry into the document to fruition or funding to be realized. So I provided to the council an excerpt from the state's website that lists 21 projects that are currently in the TIP, and there's a chart that kind of shows where they're at in the TIP. Most of those projects are not necessary for us to take any action towards prioritization. There are, however, 4 projects that the state specifically requests that the town establish a priority for, and so all the cities and towns are going through the same exercise now. The state submittal is required to go up there by a week from Friday. Oh, actually, this Friday, excuse me, by 3 o'clock. This current Friday at 3 o'clock. And anyway, so the 4 projects that are in the TIP now that we reviewed on a staff level, and we also was also reviewed by the town's Traffic and Transportation Review Committee at its last meeting last week. There are 4. The first of which, noted in the memo, is the Teft Historical Park, which is an archaeological site that's located south of the Biscuit City neighborhood, and it's in relative proximity to the Williams T. O'Neill bicycle path. And that's been on the tip for a number of years, and it's budgeted, I believe, at $130,000. And essentially, that project consists of a bicycle path spur to the park, like a walking type trail, to the area from the bike path, and it has not yet been designed. The suggestion made for prioritization is that would be number 4 among the 4 that are being requested. Secondly is the Saugatucket River Walkway Phase 2, which is actually work that was, the concept originally is for this side of the river as opposed to the Main Street side of the river, Saugatucket Park and Wakefield School vicinity. And originally that showed, was concept-wise as some improvements to the park itself and a pocket park that we own, the town owns, down at the falls. I think we're suggesting that this be given a priority of number 3 insofar as we'd like to preserve the funding for use in the town, and I guess we'd like to consider the possibility of perhaps working with DOT on the longer term to modify the concept going forward. Some things that have been talked about, for example, would be to have a spur off the bike path towards the school, or other unspecified improvements. But this also has not been designed at this point in time. The third project we're being requested to prioritize, and these are in, I guess, descending order of priority, but ascending order, excuse me. But it's the way they were listed in the chart. This is why. So anyway, that ordering was brought up to me by the town manager's office the other day, as a matter of fact, during our rush to judgment in putting the town council stuff together. But the third project is a high hazard elimination intersection program. And that's it's a bundle of intersections in the southern portion of the state. And this particular intersection is the intersection of Kingstown Road, Route 108, at Curtis Corner and Saugatucket, which has been, a difficult intersection from the point of view of accident frequency. And so it's under, I think, about a 30% design, and the idea essentially, I think, would be to create some dedicated turning lanes for east and west movements. We're suggesting that be number 2 in terms of the town's priority. And that leads us to the fourth project, which is by default number 1 priority, which would be something that the town staff and town councils over the years, planning boards and others have been seen as a great priority for the community. That's High Street, doing something to the pavement surface, drainage, and sidewalks. And
Did the town manager have anything to do with that being number 1?
just a little bit. So, but we've been, as the council knows, lobbying hard for this for a long time. It was in the study and development aspect of the TIP for many years, and I think a year or so back, we had DOT people down for our annual meeting, and they rode on High Street and came to the conclusion that something had to be done. So the suggestion under the TIP, which was voted on by the State Planning Council affirmatively last week, was to move this from study and development to pavement management, and to assign a dollar value to the improvements, and I think they've assigned an estimated $2 million cost, which would involve a reconstruction of the pavement surface, new curbs and sidewalk, some, I guess, cleaning and refurbishment of the drainage system, not a full-blown new drainage system, and it would be signage, striping, and considerations to just make it a much more effective transportation route for all users. There's a lot of pedestrian traffic. It's a highly important street in the community connecting Peacedale and Wakefield. Obviously, Town Hall, the church, the school. There's a lot of institutional uses on the property, on the corridor that are important. So we're suggesting that be number 1. There's a couple of projects I would make quick mention of that we don't need to prioritize but are in the mix. One of which is the Matunic Beach Road Stabilization Program, and DOT has added this to the TIP, and it was voted on last Thursday at the State Planning Council. The town was represented there, both myself as a member of the council and the town manager provided testimony to this State Planning Council, which agreed to put that project on the tip, and that's it doesn't need to be prioritized as it's being put into the current tip for fairly immediate action pending regulatory approvals from other agencies, but that CRMC primarily. That's a $1.6 million project estimate, or up to that amount, which is the town's agreement with RIDOT and Federal Highway in that respect. Also mentioned in the memorandum was that there's a Wakefield Bridge number 20, which is at the Saugatucket River at Main Street, has a lane restriction currently in place next to the dealership. And there's a deteriorated carrying member on the north side of the bridge that needs repair. It's my understanding that this will be addressed by DOT under their prioritization in the tip. And it might be prudent, though, in any letter of transmittal that we underscore our concern that those colorful water-filled Jersey barriers that currently inhabit the bridge don't take up permanent residence there. So, so they've talked about like a fiberglass wrapping or something with the manager, myself, and Mr. Schock and others as a means to repair, but that hasn't been specified at this point. So.
People definitely have approached me about those Jersey barriers and want to know when they're going to get removed. Is there a cost factor associated with that tentative, approximation?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, when we met with Bob Smith, the DOT's deputy chief design engineer, he had talked about they were looking at some innovative means to address that.
They're looking to address that out of their maintenance budget for bridges, so there's nothing specific for that. What probably will occur is there'll be several bridge projects that are bundled together through the maintenance program where they'll address that bridge. Our concern was that we need to make sure that we continue to say that the work has to be done because those barriers have been there for quite a long time at this point. The other thing is any improvements that we need to make at the dam are really difficult to do at this point because we can't get trucks close enough if we have to bring materials in. So it's not just the traffic restriction, it's also the safety concerns that we have for being able to properly maintain the dam as well as the area around that bridge.
Carol?
On that bridge, do we have any timeline on that, when they might consider that?
We don't at this point.
And as far as the dam, and I know this is probably a little off subject, but did you see what they did in Patuxent Village where they got rid of the waterfall and they're claiming, that the river goes right through to the ocean now, and there's a lot more, it's better for the birds and the animals and the kayakers, and I don't know if that's ever an option here.
I don't think it's an option here because if you look at the pictures around the town hall, without that dam, the river would be a stream.
Oh, it would? Mhm. Just thought I'd ask.
Good idea, though.
Since we're on the subject.
Don't want to lose them.
That was
Kayak
amazing.
experience?
Did you see what they did in Patuxent Village?
Yes,
In Cranston, yeah.
but we don't want to lose the mighty Saugatucket.
Oh, no. Who knows? I just thought maybe the flow would go in and out.
Well, and there's just a couple of, to kind of conclude a little bit, two new projects that were suggested we may include in our submittal that we had previously submitted in the 2006-2007 TIP solicitation. That they're actually, one of them is associated with Route 108 Kingstown Road, and it's a sidewalk project, essentially to provide some pedestrian sidewalk amenities, modest drainage improvements and landscaping from the Meadowbrook housing development northerly to Kingston at 108. So that's a stretch of about 1.8 miles. We had estimated that project to be about 1.35 million in terms of just based on an update of figures we had previously submitted. It may not gain purchase in the TIP review process, but it was seen as a need before, and I think it still is. And A couple of years back, the council may recall, we had a student project that actually had some very interesting ideas that could be incorporated into a sidewalk project and drainage improvements along that stretch. So that's suggested as priority 5. And then lastly, in terms of the town's side of the equation, we had a project in 2006-07 TIP solicitation for handicapped access improvements and sidewalk pedestrian type improvements along Old Tower Hill Road up by the Wakefield Mall, wrapping around Kingstown Road down towards Old Mountain Field. Included in that was a raised crosswalk at Old Mountain Field to provide better accessibility for pedestrians across, particularly from the high school, which they use that frequently for their phys ed and other recreational pursuits. And there's a need to improve Old Tower Hill roads, certainly from a point of view of handicapped and mobility impaired persons in the town. And as you know, that we have the Indian Run complex there, so you do have a population that could benefit from a project of that sort. Again, that was submitted earlier, not funded, and the funding picture doesn't look rosy, of course, but sometimes it's kind of getting your name on the list, and then lobbying over time is what it takes. So it's kind of a foot in the door type thing that we're looking at. In the memo as well, just 2 other items briefly. There was an email that I received from the Friends of Kingston Station about a potential project at the station itself that consists of about 6 different items related to improvements to the facility there that would improve. And so they totaled, estimated about $100,000 in total. And the town, for any project that would be submitted by an other than municipal entity, there's 2 manners that we can include it in a submittal. One would be to simply have a letter of acknowledgement on behalf of the organization, or the town could choose to incorporate that type of submittal into our submittal to the state. So I had talked to Mr. Hepner as well later in the week. I'm not sure if they have anyone here this evening to okay. Well, we did speak on the phone, I think, Friday in the email, so I won't steal their thunder, so to speak. And the last item I would mention, I met with the University of Rhode Island administration, specifically Vern Wyman, their Associate Vice President for Business Affairs, and the URI is proposing 2 projects for the TIP, and they would respectfully request the town provide them with a letter of acknowledgement in that regard. And those consist of the following. South County Bike Path URI connector extension. Currently in the TIP, there's a project concept to bring a spur from the existing bike path down at Peckham Farm, down towards Ministerial, across the university property and back out to 138. URI would like consideration of extending that into the campus. It makes good sense, and they're also there's a $1.5 million construction budget currently contemplated for the original extension, and URI would like to add an on-campus bike path from 138 near Graduate Village to the athletic fields north of Flag Road in the Tibbetts Farm area, and they're estimating that cost to be approximately $650,000. The second project that they're interested in is some roadway resurfacing internal to the campus, and they're talking about 3 roads up in particular, one of which is Upper College Road, subsurface repair and resurfacing. Apparently, it's been 17 years since that was taken care of by the state, and there's been a lot of utility cuts and construction work over time, and it is obviously the major access point into the university from the state highway at 138. Lower College Road, subsurface repair and resurfacing suitable for bus traffic. Vern did note that there'd be a new sidewalk partially on Lower College as a consequence of the 138 reconstruction. And Flag Road, they want to add bicycle lanes on the south side and some repairs to the easterly end of the of Flag Road up by Fine Arts Center parking lot in that vicinity. So that's basically where we're at with the tip. There's some time constraints. I would make note that there will be in these chambers on November the 7th at 6 p.m. a meeting of the state's Transportation Advisory Committee, which is charged with really vetting the applications received under the tip, and they're holding 4 hearings around the state, and that one particular hearing is here. So be, I guess, a week from, well, 2 weeks from Monday, or a week from Monday, I guess, from Monday next. So 2 weeks from tonight.
7 o'clock?
I believe it's at 6 o'clock, actually. The state likes to get their meetings done early, oftentimes during the day. But
November 7th.
But in any event, what the request would be for tonight for the town to, the prioritization of our projects and the consideration of new and authorization to provide, I suppose, letters of acknowledgement for any new projects that come in from other than municipal agencies. So,
A lot of great projects.
yeah.
Okay, do we have questions here at the table? Carol?
I just, does Amtrak contribute to the Kingston Station, any of the upkeep over there?
I'll,
I think we have Frank who wants to answer
yeah,
that.
I think I'll leave that to somebody who
Oh,
can, who knows. So.
Thank you. My name is Frank Hepner. Many of you I know from 30-some-odd years of appearing before this body, but for those of you who don't, I'm the chairman of the board of directors of the Friends of the Kingston Station, which is a volunteer organization that performed the first restoration of the station in the mid-1970s and was instrumental in assembling the administrative and financial package that resulted in the restoration of the station in the mid to late 90s. Reason I'm here is to introduce a new project into the pipeline. We would greatly appreciate it if it could be sent along to TIP with a letter of acknowledgement. We fully realize how long these processes take, but you have to go someplace to start out with. We currently have one enhancement project that was approved by RIDOT in 2002, and we are still waiting to see it completed. We have another one in 2004 that's also invisible, so it does take a long time. I have some printed copies of our proposal that are available to all of you later on, but essentially the proposal is this. Since the station was restored in the late 90s, it has been too successful. The usage at the station was about 66,000 passengers a year beforehand, before the restoration. Now it's about 175,000 passengers a year. Add on to that approximately 10 to 20,000 bike path users a year who come into the station and use the facilities. And the wear and tear on this old building is just much greater than has been anticipated or budgeted for. To give you an example, 2 million people have walked over the original wood floors, and they've not received any maintenance to speak of since the building was built. Similarly, the bathrooms were originally designed to be maintained by the ticket agents. Well, back in the days when hardly anybody rode the trains, if there was a need to dump the waste baskets or do whatever had to be done, the agent could simply come out and do it. Well, now the station is full of people, and they can't get in to do these kinds of maintenance. So we proposed 6 items. One, refinishing the floors. Second, modernizing the bathrooms for easier maintenance using automatic flush toilets and the Dyson hand dryers to get rid of the paper towels, moving the water fountain to the station side to eliminate paper cups and so forth. The lock sets, the door locks in the building are essentially worn out, and this creates a security hazard. These have to be heavy-duty units that are historically compatible with the building. The interior needs a little bit of touch-up paint. A structure that gets that much use gets a little few dents and bumps here and there. The upper part of the building needs a power wash. The lower part was power washed when they repaired the canopy last year. Now it's conspicuous. It looks like it's two different colors. And then finally, the landscaping needs to be rethought in terms of easier maintenance. For example, fast-growing shrubs were planted directly around the station, and they protrude through the fences, and they require constant pruning. Well, there are ways around this. So if someone cut the Friends a check for $42,000, we would be able to do all of these projects for that amount. That is not, however, how much the state would need to do the project. Now, exactly how much more a state project would cost, you'd have to do the exact numbers. But our rule of thumb has been 3 to 4 times as much as you figure you could do it for yourself, with all the environmental impact statements and so forth along the way. So the actual projects would be about $40,000. We imagine it would be about $100,000. Now, to give you an example of where we get these numbers, we had proposed in 2002 that the old signal tower, be moved and restored. We costed it out ourselves. We figured we could do it for about $40,000, so we put in a request for $160,000, which was approved. Well, after various delays, when it went out to bid last year, the amount had gone up to $300,000. And I won't go into the details, but all the bids were thrown out, and now we're looking possibly at between $600,000 and $700,000 to do something that we could have done 10 years ago for $40,000. So we've indicated on our paper here that the cost estimate, we need to include a compensating factor. Now, the problem that we have with this, and the reason that we're here, is that these maintenance items would be considered extraordinary by RIDOT's normal maintenance department. They don't do things like this. They don't have a budget for things like this. They can replace light bulbs, they can do various minor sorts of things, or they can do very large projects like repairing the canopies. This falls between the cracks, and that's why we're hoping that by putting these things together as a package, where they would be funded from extraordinary sources rather than the normal maintenance budget, we might be able to get them through. So that's the gist of why we're here today. Questions?
Well, my question was, how about Amtrak? Do they contribute at all? I mean, that's how it started.
Yes and no. The Rhode Island Department of Transportation owns the building. It owns the grounds. Amtrak owns the platforms and the track. Now, there's a dividing line, so that if there is a problem with lights going out on the station platform, then Amtrak takes care of that. If there's a minor maintenance problem on the interior of the building on the Amtrak side, it's like a normal landlord-tenant relationship, they will fix it. So, for example, Amtrak will do repairs on a furnace if it goes out. They have people who go around from station to station taking care of that. But that's for routine maintenance only. So something like refinishing floors or painting inside, they have no budget for that. And the state doesn't have a budget for that either.
Now, how about the man who sells the tickets inside the station? Do they pay rent for that?
The arrangement that the state made with Amtrak originally owned the building when it took it over from the Penn Central Railroad. Mm-hmm. As part of the deal to refurbish the station, Amtrak gave the building to the state in exchange for a zero-cost lease indefinitely. So Amtrak doesn't pay anything to use the station, but Amtrak does pay for the utilities.
Jim, did you have a question?
Yeah, Steve, is there some way that this might fall on a capital project versus the old maintenance pay-as-you-go? Is there any difference with in the TIP program to recognize that this would be a capital project, maybe a life of more than 5-10 years on some aspects of what's needed here?
I think the way Frank's approaching it is the only way to approach it, is that it has to be a large enough dollar amount so it isn't looked at as something that they could refer to state DOT maintenance. So I think that the way it's being approached by the Friends is the appropriate way if, in fact, they're going to ever get that work, the level of that work done.
Thank you.
Further questions here at the table? Polly?
Frank, that lovely museum you have there,
Yes, ma'am.
does that bring in, do people donate to that when they go in?
The question is, do people donate to the museum? They do. We get maybe $400 a year. Our problem with the museum, and we've addressed this with one of the enhancement projects, is that we can only have it open when we have a volunteer present. Because if the museum is open, when the station is open, then we don't have a museum anymore. So we're only open a couple of hours a week. But even only being open 2 hours to 3 hours a week, we have 5,000 visitors a year that come in during that narrow window. So our grant is going to put everything in locked cases so that we'll be able to have the museum open without a volunteer present. And in that case, we could have 30,000 visitors a year, substantial numbers.
Jim?
Do I dare bring up charging for parking? Is there some way that, I mean, the whole idea of free parking to take the rail is obviously very important, but I'm just trying to think of some cash flow. Who owns the parking lot, and could there be some funds raised to cover the early costs? And then
Yeah, the state owns the parking lot. And the free parking, as we've learned from informal studies, is one of the reasons why people come down here from Warwick instead of going to Providence. So that's an important part. Now, if the station ever gets commuter service, which is an if, then the whole parking situation will have to be re-examined again, because there's no way the existing parking situation could accommodate commuter trains. There are 200 spaces in the parking lot, and typically during the summer there are another 100 cars that are parked in the auxiliary parking lawn on the other side of the station.
Wow.
success breeds.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow.
Carol?
Frank, what about that building and that auxiliary parking, that square? Is that the tower you're talking about?
Yeah, the tower is the old signal tower that's currently it's on the other side of Route 138.
Is that the auxiliary parking that you just
That's
spoke
the
of?
auxiliary parking, yes. It's along the street there, yep.
And do you want to move that, or do you want to?
Yeah, no, we want to move it and restore it against the time, sometime in the future. This is a two-step process. We want to put bathrooms, public bathrooms in that building. And we first have to get a commitment from some agency to maintain it, maintain the bathrooms, which we've not been able to do so far.
Where do you want to move it to?
It will be, I'm going to have to describe it. It would be between the station and 138. There's a sidewalk that goes to the station platform. It would be right next to that. So it would be architecturally a nice complement to the station.
Right after the bridge? When you go
Yes,
under the bridge.
between the bridge and the station.
Good spot. Good spot.
This is something that I can support.
What can we do here? What, obviously,
So what would be the
makes sense, but is it too late, Steve, on this round, or can we?
No, the Friends are going to submit their own application. What they're asking the town to do is to provide endorsement on that.
Right.
So what we would suggest is that the council would approve the proposal as presented in Vin's memo, and also provide us with the ability to provide endorsements for both the URI and the Kingston, Friends of the Kingston train stations projects.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sounds great, and thank you for putting all this time in, Frank. You're a
Thank
true
you.
historian with this as well.
Yeah.
At this point, it's a public hearing, and Jim, unless you had a question, I'm going to open open to the
Oh, I was
audience?
just asking Frank if he had a copy of that to give it to the Dale, the town clerk.
All right, so this is a public hearing, so at this time, I'm going to open comments on this topic to the audience, to the public. Welcome.
Well, this has been just an my name is Martha Stamp, by the way, and I live in South Kingstown. And first, I want to tell a gentleman from, oh, he left, from Amtrak. I guess I'm one of those that never used Amtrak, and it's absolutely wonderful. I rather use that when I go to Washington, D.C. And I was going to suggest to him a cost-saving way for the toilets. Get one of those toilet, what do you call it, a porta potty or whatever. I've been in some wonderful ones at former Governor Kacheri. I never saw such a wonderful porta potty. It has everything you need in there. Get a couple of those, and those walkers won't care what it looks like because it is really, really nice. And now, I'm here just for information. I don't know whether, they'll never call on me at a state one because everybody knows who I am. But I tell you, I have seen some things in Charlestown. Now, I live right near Charlestown.
Martha, I'm sorry. We just need to take this public hearing, and then when we have comments for interested citizens, which
Oh, I can't do it? I was told I could do it on the transportation.
I don't think
and-
that it has anything to do with this public hearing, unless, Steve?
Well, he told me that I could speak on transportation. I just want to leave some thoughts in your, as far as, I have no idea. Oh, go ahead, Steve, you want to talk?
When I spoke with Martha earlier, what her concern was the state projects and their impact on a community if they go unchecked. That belongs within the transportation improvement plan.
Yeah.
But I also suggested to Martha that my concern is that if we're going to bring up problems in Charleston, it should be the theme that we want to make sure that any projects in South Kingstown that DOT runs, that we fully vet the plans before they're implemented.
Okay.
And Steve, I really think after talking with my favorite ice cream place in the summer, I talked with, his name is Stephen, and I talked with him this morning. And maybe it was this morning. And, you know, they are more interested in being a part of a forum. The people in Charlestown never knew what was happening to them. And when I took the pictures, and they are on exhibit, you have them there, they have actually ruined the businesses there. And one business just has one entry. And I would like to ask the transportation person that was here, or the planning person that was here, how high are those cement barriers going to be? Whether they be on the corner of Curtis Corner or wherever they are monstrosities. And the plow trucks are going to be, they're going to have repairs. I mean, we have a lot of snow. So I'm just throwing this all out to you because I really didn't like what I see. Charlie Beck's parking lot is gone, but it could happen to the fella that sat right there. It could happen to anybody here in South Kingstown. And that's my point. Because if they're not brought into the loop, this Mr. Stephen, I can't pronounce his last name, my ice cream shop guy, he's trying to get a loan for $38,000. They ruined his parking lot. They ruined the dirt. They ruined the flowers. They ruined his business now, and he has an 800 point for his credit. He told me this today. He cannot get a loan. Now, he's been paying taxes on that land all of these properties? Are they going to get a reduction in taxes when the state comes through? So anyway, that's all. And I just wonder if TIP is also like the stimulus money. Is this stimulus money that's going to be used?
No, as Vin mentioned earlier, this is to deal with the transportation improvement plan that uses federal and state dollars that come in. The federal dollars are the dollars that are used for transportation. It's not
Great.
stimulus. There may be stimulus dollars that are used to deal
Well-
with some of these programs, but the real issue here is that when we deal with the state projects, the major concern is that we need to vet the projects, detailed construction, and to ensure that we're working hand in hand with the state. And that's what our objective would be on any of the projects that are listed here on the list that the council has before them.
Well, it certainly stimulated me because they took my ice cream shop away.
Thank you, Martha. Further questions from the audience, comments? Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Keith Forhaven, right here on High Street. I'm elated that you're going to have High Street improved. I have a concern once it's improved. The speed limit on the road is 25 miles an hour, and honestly, physically, you can't really drive your car beyond 25 miles an hour because it's such a washboard of a road. My concern is once it's repaved, that cars could get a whole lot faster really quick, and I've asked about monitoring cars on that road, and I always get, well, it's a state road, so we don't pull over speeders on it, et cetera, et cetera. Is there any accommodations for enforcing a speed limit once it does get repaved and things get fast?
Steve?
Keith, there's absolutely no truth to the fact that we don't stop cars on state highways.
Okay.
We are required to set speed limits based on what the state statute says. That would be posted as a 25-mile-an-hour speed zone. The issue of the town police department or the state police monitoring traffic on any road, it can be done, and it is done. The road improvement project that we're looking at has been initiated as far as the initial survey work is being completed, and I'm sure you saw them out there over the last couple of months. If I was optimistic, I would say that the construction may be in a couple of years. It may take longer than that. The major thing that we're looking to accomplish there is to rebuild the sidewalks, put a proper profile in place, as well as to reline the existing drainage pipes that exist. I don't see that we're going to see a real increase in the speed on that road just based on the narrowness of the road itself. But if we did see speed problems, we would have the police monitoring it, and they would take the appropriate actions. But it makes no difference if it's a state road or a town road. You certainly see an awful lot of police cars out on Route 1.
Yeah. That was everything I said to these individuals who are insisting that it was a state road, so the state troopers would have to monitor it. So thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you. I'm going to jump back to the town council table. Jim?
Steve, just to add to that, if we're fortunate enough to have the road bed improved, does that include the curbs and sidewalks?
Yes.
The whole package, okay.
Yes, the major concern that we had when we had DOT's attention, in fact, we invited them down on a very heavy rainy day, was to be able to see what the condition was. And they were very accommodating after seeing what the difficulty was. And I think that they really are trying to move it forward. At that last state planning council meeting, they moved the High Street project in as a TIP project. That's why we're not having to prioritize it this evening. So I think that we're making progress with that, but that road is in such deplorable condition at this point. We've got to get the sidewalks back with a proper reveal that can then channel the water rather than it just free-flowing onto the private properties.
Thank you.
Further questions here at the table? Any further comments from the audience?
Jonathan Daly LaBelle. I know there's a forum here tomorrow night talking about healthy places by design, so I'm partially improving ways for people to get from point A to point B. And I know there was the Complete Streets resolution. I don't know if that was passed earlier this year or if that was last year. But I'm just wondering if any of those things that are being, I know that High Street is a very, it's visibly, I can see it visibly, that's a very tight corridor, but I'm just wondering if any of the things that are being talked about in these initiatives are able to be incorporated into the work that's going to be done.
Actually, that's the theme throughout with each of the projects that we're looking at.
It is.
When we're looking at bike path enhancements, getting into the Taft Historical Park, we're looking at the hazard elimination, which is to improve the intersection at Curtis Corner and Saugatucket and 108. We've also asked for two new projects. One is to be able to provide proper sidewalks up to Wakefield Mall from Dale Collier and redevelopment of the sidewalks properly all the way to Old Mountain Field, and to provide a raised crosswalk at Old Mountain Field. So the projects that we're talking about there, the common theme is pedestrian activity enhancements as well as road network. So yes, we are proposing all of those different, and the last project, which also is sidewalk appropriate, is the installation from Curtis Corner Saugatucket intersection on Kingstown Road to where the sidewalk is going to wrap from 138 onto 108. We'd like to see a continuous curb line with a sidewalk on the west side of that road. So each and every one of the items here looks at enhancements of pedestrian accessibility to the road network.
I mean, yeah, that sounds great. I was just wondering, as far as High Street specifically, I don't know if there's any way to incorporate any of those things just because the corridor is so tight, or just whether or not the design.
The major thing that we can incorporate onto High Street is to provide appropriate sidewalks and to provide appropriate sidewalk to the side streets, so that we can change the angle of the sidewalk curb line so that they're not constantly being broken by vehicles that are, heavy vehicles that are trying to cut that road. So each of those things are going to happen with that road reconstruction as well, because the main thing is to get proper sidewalks in place as well as to have them so they can be easily maintained.
Okay. Yeah, there was a work session at the Y last week, and it really seemed like the focus is, definitely the sidewalks as you're talking about and pedestrian friendly, but it sounded to me that there was going to kind of be a push for bicycles too. So I just didn't, I don't, are those plans available to be viewed, as far as for High Street? I'm just, curious if that can be improved.
The right-of-way is not sufficient to be able to put bike lanes on High Street. We don't have the real estate to be able to accomplish that.
Okay, I was just.
And again, for all intents and purposes, the bike path runs parallel to High Street to be able to provide you to Kingstown Road by Railroad Street. So you can get from Main Street to Kingstown Road without having to put a bike on Main Street and to have a dedicated, Class 1 bike path to take you from point A to point B. So I don't see where there would be a priority, even if the real estate were available, but it's not.
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just add, the state's just done a baseline assessment of the conditions out here. We don't have plans for the improvements. I think the town would have the opportunity, as those are developed, to comment and have input on them. And I think a lot of things that, like as the manager was saying, High Street is physically not, we're not talking about widening the pavement surface to accommodate a bike lane. I think Steve was correct in his statement that, proper sidewalks would do a world of good to, those sidewalks, I think, date back from the WPA, if you look at the medallions that are on the, we would want them to reuse those medallions, though, the WPA medallions in the reconstruction. And I think we could get better crosswalk delineations and better signage, so there'd be a thematic thing of pedestrian respect and a complete streets. I think we would definitely push for that as the plans are developed in more formal fashion. So.
One further comment is that the High Street project has been placed in the pavement management program. Now, that differs from where we had originally targeted. The original target was for road reconstruction. Total road reconstruction would have required entire new drainage systems. It was never going to occur with that type of a project. So what we're looking at is under a pavement management program element, the focus or scope of the work is limited to what exists today with reconstruction of what exists today rather than to expand or to enhance with new features. So it is a realistic project for a reconstruction of the roadbed, sidewalk, curb line, and to deal with existing drainage, but it will not see expansions of the drainage, which was what we had always hoped to see happen, but that's not going to occur under this program funding. But we could have continued to look to have this in a road reconstruction project and be sitting here 20 years from now still looking for that type of a project. Our objective was to get to a program element where we could get substantive renovation of the existing infrastructure rather than replacement and expansion of that infrastructure, which would include the drainage.
Okay, further questions from the audience? Here at the table. Carol.
Vin, maybe you'd answer this, or Steve. The suggested priority 3, which is the Saugatucket River Walkway, that pocket park, is that right near South County Orthopedics? Is that what we're talking about? Right after the bridge?
Yes, it's a
Between the
little,
building and the bridge?
It's also Veterans Park.
right, but it's a little.
You go down and there's a bench down
Yep.
there?
Yeah, that's it, so.
Just that small corner?
Well, there's also the park itself further up the street on
Oh,
the other
okay.
side of the
Oh, on the other
orthopedic
side
facility.
is
Yeah, that's
included.
obviously the
Okay.
town, yeah.
That's what I was wondering.
I just want to thank you, Vin, for the amount of work. These projects are fabulous, and the priority list is outstanding. So thank you for all the work and
Great.
the rest of the town staff as well. So at this time, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries 400. And if somebody could craft a motion to approve as presented and provide endorsement for Friends of Kingston Station and URI.
I move that we approve the plan for the TIP plan as presented, along with letters of endorsement for the URI projects and for the project presented by the Friends of Kingston Station.
Second.
We have motion and second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries 400. Which brings us to communications. We have a resolution adopted September 20th, 2011 by the Richmond Town Council requesting that the state require National Grid to implement preventative maintenance measures to reduce the extent of damage and ensuing power outages caused by storm, such as Tropical Storm Irene, is received, placed on file, and the Town Council further directs.
We discussed this at the work session, and we decided to place this on file.
Second.
Any further comments before we vote? Jim?
A number of times the National Grid arborist has come up my driveway and said, we'll be there with the bucket truck and we're going to take care of this because we don't want any outages. And that's gone on every year for the last 10 years, maybe more. I know they do have arborists, and I know they do hire out. And too bad they couldn't hire some local folks. The last group was from Texas, and they clear cut first and worry about the arboring world second. But folks that work for National Grid are wonderful. When they arrived on the scene, did a great job. But Hopefully, their arborist and their preventive measuring team is still on duty, still on salary, still part of their departments. That's the only thing I would like to inquire with this, just to see that they can continue that hard work.
Certainly, they've got teams that are dealing with the branch removal around their wires. But I think the real problem is during major storms, it's not the branches above the wires that are coming down that knock down the poles or the wires. Many times it's the trees that are across the street, which aren't going to be touched by those arborists. Candidly, in terms of dealing with National Grid during the Tropical Storm Irene, we found that much of what occurred, the restoration of the power has to go in sequencing, because you can't assume that you're going to be able to take care of your high priority area unless you're able to get the power to that high priority area. So I think that there is, within the rate base itself for National Grid, is a reserve fund which is set up for these type of natural disasters. In fact, they used all of that money over that last storm. There is a maintenance component that's there year-round, but you are never going to, in a state like Rhode Island with as many trees that we have, going to have arborists that are going to be able to provide fail-safes during that type of a storm. It's literally impossible. The key is to make sure that the pre-planning is done so that if there's a probability of a storm, that the work crews from the other states are already online and ready to come in. That is where the real problem is getting the labor back into the state after the emergency. There should be pre-placement of it in many cases in advance of the storm. And that's something that's being looked at this point.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion to place on file? I think, Carol, you made the motion? And did we have a second? Okay. Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries 400. Communications, item D. This is a communication dated October 12th, 2011, from William Murray Gates, tendering his resignation from the Conservation Commission. Is received, placed on file, and the town council further directs.
I move we accept his resignation and thank him for his years on the Conservation Commission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries 400. We have communication item E. This is a resolution adopted October 3rd, 2011 by the Woonsocket City Council in support of comprehensive statewide pension reform. Is received, placed on file, and the town council further directs.
We discussed this at the work session also, I believe. And we decided to place this on file since it didn't directly, it was more applicable to Woonsocket than to the rest of the state.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries 400. Communication item F. This is a resolution adopted October 3rd, 2011 by the Middletown Town Council requesting the General Assembly to repeal the new state sales tax on local tour operations. Received, placed on file, and the town council further directs.
I move that we support this, this resolution from Middletown in that it allows for a 7%, I mean, there is a tax, 7% tax on tourism, which is already burdened, and I think it would preclude people from coming to our wonderful area and bus trips.
I agree. Hands off tour operators.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries 400. Next one is the consent agenda that you removed, Jim. It's Communications G. It's a communication dated October 12th from Kathleen Vieira Boudoin, Town Council, Town Clerk, reporting that the Portsmouth Town Council has endorsed the Town of Richmond's efforts to oppose the proposed implementation of paid tolls on Route 95 is received and placed on file. I'm going to turn it over to you, Jim.
Yeah, hopefully this is just the start of the southern towns and counties to oppose this plan of putting a toll on just the southern end of Route 95. The Westerly Town Council is meeting tonight. Charlestown, Richmond, Hopkinton are on board. Hopefully South Kingstown. I'm certainly hoping that we can join them. Just the fact of how this has been presented is so discriminatory. I mean, just the Southern District in 95, I mean, you know, what about Warwick? What about the Northern District? They want to make money. It just makes no sense whatsoever. And I'm glad Steve told us that this application is still pending. The reason I'd like to get to this as quickly as possible, I don't want this thing to get any momentum, you know, putting roots in the ground. That's my greatest worry here, is I'd like to try to stop this in its initial stages. That's why I pushed on this a month ago to why I voted in support to knock this thing down. So I would certainly like to support that resolution. I will leave it up to this council. I know we're going to be discussing this at our next town council meeting. Hopefully we can join forces, but I always worry, and what Mrs. Stamp said earlier, sometimes if we don't keep track of what plans are put out there by the feds or the state. That's why it's very important that we keep on top of everything. This thing could also get right by us, so that's where I stand on this.
Okay.
I really would like to wait until we get more information on it. I don't think that we have very much information on this. I would rather just place it on file.
Right, I think what we, I think Steve had given us a whole packet, and I think what we have, we had talked about is putting it on the agenda when Kathy Fogarty is here to,
All the,
right.
yeah.
So, but there was a whole packet that Steve had given us, so we will put this off to the next meeting.
So can we place it on file for now?
That's what we're going to do.
Continue it.
Right.
Continue it.
Yes, we're going
Okay.
to continue it.
I'd be for that.
Carol?
I'd just like to say that I do agree with Jim on this one, and I will defer to waiting for Kathy to be here at the next meeting, but we've received the information, and I think it would be a detriment to our town and all of southern Rhode Island to have a toll go in and on the highway in southern Rhode Island. In Richmond, I think, is where they plan to put it.
I'm also in agreement with that, but, you know, for courtesy, we'll wait until, we're going to place it on file, continue it till the next meeting. Oh, do we have a motion on that and a second?
I move we continue it till next meeting.
Second?
We have motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, and abstentions, so the motion is 3 in favor, 1 opposed, 0 abstentions. Motion carries. Which brings us to Communications H. This is a communication received October 19th, 2011 from Councilman James O'Neill proposing adoption of a resolution to the town's General Assembly members concerning pension reform legislation is received, placed on file, and the town council further directs. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Jim.
Thank you, Ella. My resolution was one of a little bit of impatience here. I think it's recognized throughout the state that the math is real, that in fact there is a financial crisis brewing with the pension plans, certainly statewide plans, as well as the 36 independent plans that various communities have. I was hoping to early on have one voice. I wanted to have the assembly in here and the school committee, which I asked for back in June. I wanted to have one voice here, so when the plan, which has been presented a week ago by the general treasurer and the governor, they would know when the scuttlebutt started up there of the severe financial impact to the town of South Kingstown, let alone the state. just my own comments on the plan that's been presented. I think it's more than a reasonable plan. I think the numbers are very, very close to what's needed to turn the direction and the trend that the outflow of money is going in the Rhode Island retirement system. There's some painful areas, good news for financial people, painful for others. The good news, if you're in the financial world, is the freezing of COLAs, which were part of this plan. When I asked the Treasurer's Office, that is about 45% of the savings. Fairly even balance between the other two aspects, raising the retirement age, sort of monitoring Social Security, and a shift to a hybrid pension plan, 401k. The important part of this, according to the numbers at the Treasurer's Office, is improving the unfunded liability from the current 48% to 62%. That would certainly be healthy, but far from going out in the cold weather without dressing up. The bad news with this whole situation is that we have, according to the Treasurer's Office, 36 different community plans which are in deep, deep trouble. And the numbers are just astounding. The plans that were mentioned are between 11 and 17% funded. 11 and 17% funded. According to the governor, and quoting him, these are icebergs waiting to happen. And if you've been involved with me for 12 years on this council, you know I brought up this Titanic and the iceberg issue 12 years ago, that the computers don't lie and a calculator doesn't lie, that we're headed for a real difficult time. On the other side of the coin here, I think labor should be, in a way, ecstatic. I think even this council and even our school committee was concerned about re-amortization, and a chunk of this will be re-amortized out on the back end, the back 6 to 7 years. So that took a lot of guts to do, but I think the governor and the general treasurer wanted to appease some of that pricing with labor. Also, too, accrued pensions will be honored through June 30 of 2012. That's good news. I don't think anyone here wants to see what's happening in Central Falls, have it repeated, where you have many of the pensioners, those under 15 or under 10,000, depending what plan you're in, as much as 1/3 to 1/2 of their paychecks have been discounted in the last few months. That's what happens when you run out of money. The good news, the very good news for property taxpayers, as the town manager again presented tonight in a work session, if this current reform plan is adopted as is, there will be absolute relief for the property taxpayers. It looks like the property taxpayers basically in South Kingstown basically will flatline with our current year. There'll be no increase of property taxes due to the pension issue itself. That's really good news. And this is a math problem. This, we have to get away from personalities and politics here, and maybe won't be able to. But when someone as bright as the actuaries and as bright as Mrs. Raimondo, and to quote her, the system challenges are so great that it's mathematically impossible to fix without dramatic changes, unquote. I think she knows what she's talking about, and I think it's obvious here with the actuaries what they have said. The other thing of great concern to me is the state pension system is absolutely bleeding money. Last year paid out almost $325 million more in benefits than they took in from all sources, both employees and employers. It'll be more in the current year. This drawdown, this is money that we have to set aside and pay out that we can't even earn money on in a good market or if we had a good yield somewhere. And drawdown is really what is killing us here. It's really severe. And the general treasurer went on to say she could give us scenarios where the state retirement system could wind up with no money on the basis of drawdown. So it is a serious problem. Political courage, yeah, we're going to need a lot of it. I've certainly been up here for 12 years, 11 years, being fired at here, but the important thing about the plan that's put forward and why I wanted to get a resolution approving what the Governor, General Treasurer have done, this brings down approximately a 24-year cost of $16.6 billion to about a $13.2 billion level, a 20% savings over those 24 years. Very mild, very doable. And obviously, I think it resuscitates the retirement system. But still, you know, we're in a coma here, and believe me, our children need this to happen. The back end with re-amortization here, that could really hurt if the state of Rhode Island doesn't grow at 2 or 3% per year. That $600, $700, $800 million we're going to need on the back end of this is going to be a very high dollar amount out of the general revenues of the state of Rhode Island. And these are monies that we need now to attract business investment and jobs. The other issue why I'm concerned with the General Assembly response, but I'm hoping that we will meet in a week or two here. And this is a real problem. We have a minimum of 58 representatives out of 113 who are receiving a minimum one public pension. Some are receiving 2 and 3, and some who've been in the General Assembly long enough are also getting that pension. That's one major concern that puts the taxpayers in a negative position here. The other one is the investment return of 7.5% is, I think, very optimistic. If they brought it down another point or two, we couldn't find the hundreds of millions of dollars to make up for it. Hopefully, the national economy will improve over the years, and Rhode Island's economy can improve a little years, so we can come close to that number. But that's a number that could put this plan in further jeopardy down the road. And on top of that, we need to see how important this is, because we have another 4.3, last number I saw now is $4.5 billion of post-retirement health care costs. That issue has to be addressed. Largely unfunded, and mainly the major cities. We do a great job in a town like South Kingstown, where we're one of the higher percentages there, and we don't have these issues to this extent and this level. But that is another monstrous cost, and gosh, $4.3 billion. And maybe Medicare is going to wind up with a lot of those bills, because a lot of towns are going to have to cut that whole deal off at age 65, but then again, a lot of these private pension plans may be contractual, that there's nothing that the rest of us can do about them, yet we're going to have to work with them, because Providence is one with the last I saw was $1.5 billion of an unfunded post-retirement health care plan. $1.5 billion, folks. Almost no money set aside. I don't care how you discount that, the present value, that's a monster. Their pension shortfall is about $700 million. And we have to help these cities and towns. You know, as General Motors goes, so goes the nation. As Providence goes, so goes the state. And this is absolutely a dire situation. So that's why I really wanted this my resolution to pass here, because we needed to encourage other town councils around the state that maybe this isn't the perfect combination, but a 20% saving over 24 years, we've got to do it this way, and we cannot put the burden on the kids any more than the governor has suggested here with the re-amortization here. And I know it's going to be very tough for a lot of folks who are going to run for office again. Headlines in the newspaper, war chest, union folks, huge war chests, and they're going to be watching the votes, on and on and on. I don't have to tell you how it works, and all the lawmakers, including ourselves, we risk that wrath with the vote on benefits. But we have to look at the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is the state of Rhode Island. And I know this is a bitter pill for a lot of those who've been working years, and those who are retirees in the system, but gosh almighty, that's a lot better losing a COLA than it is to lose a chunk of your check each month, and we're going in a direction where that's going to happen. And the other thing I don't want to see, and why it's important to do this, is I want to keep as many jobs in this community, in this state, as possible. And you've got to pass this to keep a lot more people working. And I'm just going to read you a couple things here, just a couple of sentences, but one from Richard Leach, who we know, who's the governor's right-hand man up there. And he says very bluntly, and I'll quote him here, without this reform, the budget I present to the lawmakers, there'll be many fewer state workers on the payroll. That's something I don't want to get to, and that's a situation that we're going to be looking at. City of Providence here, they're looking for 27 to 16, 43 policemen. They're encouraging for early retirement. None will be replaced, to try to cover a $6 million deficit just in that department. This is serious when you start losing jobs. COLA is painful to lose, but a lot less painful than a lot less of a check or a lot less of brethren without jobs. And a couple of just peripheral items here that we've got to pay attention to. Massachusetts Senate has now, they're in a joint committee, Senate and House have passed the 3 casino, 1 slot parlor bill. I guarantee you that'll be a minimum, according to all the studies, $150 million out of our general fund. $150 million is a bigger number than the state of Rhode Island in its best growth year for our general fund revenues. Right now, our general fund revenue is around $3 billion. That's about 4.5% or so, 5%. And we haven't had any growth years like that. So I'm just telling you, just the casino issue alone is taking out those revenues that could be used to help in the pension situation and operations and state aid education. The state economy, state general fund is going to have less money to work with. This is serious. And the other serious thing is the census, which I brought up at the school committee meeting last week in the question and answer period. The census is one of complete danger. When a community doesn't grow, the state of Rhode Island, last 5 years, we've lost some people. Last 10 years, next to Michigan, Michigan actually lost people. We had a small decimal point increase in folks, but the last 5 years, it's been off a little bit. And the worst part about that combination is we've increased by over 10% the senior population, 190,000 to 211,000. That's the healthcare expenses, that's the part that's going to hurt. The people we're losing are the ones that are investing, working, paying the bills. And that's the group we're losing. And this is the worst recipe that we could ever have, these combinations. So that's why this pension reform is necessary, why I put forward my resolution, why these numbers have got to hold. I think you'll hear tonight that we're going to have a meeting in a couple of weeks or a week or so with the General Assembly folks, and that's good, but they need to know the pain out here and the pain South Kingstown will suffer without reform. And to be very, very honest with you, I mean, the taxpayers I run across in this town, they would like to see less of property taxes when we work on our budget in the coming year. Less, not more. So how in the world, if we don't pass this reform, are we going to honor that? So it's serious business. I thank you for the time to put this forward. It's one that I was hoping to get passed tonight at the work session. I understand that my fellow members of the council would like to wait till we meet with the General Assembly members. I just wanted to, as I said earlier, beat them to the punch before they have too much influence put on them by very powerful special interests. Thank you, Willa.
Thank you, Jim. Can I just ask for a motion in a second? I should have done that prior to. And then we're going to take conversation, and then we will take a vote. Somebody want to give me a motion?
Was that a motion, Jim? That whole speech?
I don't think Jim can give a motion because it's his resolution.
I could do the same. Yeah,
You
I've
can?
always been able
Okay.
to do that. Yes, I mean, Nancy's agreeing, so I will do that. I will do that.
And is there a second?
Second, a reluctant second, Jim.
Carol?
Not based on the initial premise, but some of your language in the resolution is very harsh, and I'm not certain it's deserving of the local legislatures. But there's no question that we need broad pension reform. I think we can all agree on that. But I would like to have the meeting with the local General Assembly, and I'd like to hear their exchange of ideas from them and a full discussion on the whole topic. Yes, we've all read the newspaper. We know the plan put forth by the treasurer is difficult for many people who are on pensions, currently on pensions, and will be on state pensions or city pensions, town pensions, MERS. And Steve, I want to thank you for the overview you gave us, which he gave us tonight at the work session, which was how it stands for us now in 2012 as the pension budget is right now, and then what it would be for no reform in 2013, and the alternative is the pension reform that's proposed by the treasurer. And you know, we can't just stick our head in the sand, there's no doubt about that, but I don't see there's a need for name calling, and I do see that if we do nothing, property taxes will have to rise, sale taxes will have to rise, we'd have to get the money somewhere. And so it's got to come from one place or another. So something does have to be done. But I would like to meet with the legislators before we adopt a resolution. And I certainly would like to adopt a resolution, I mean, we did adopt one on June 9th saying we wanted to meet with the legislature as soon as practicable to discuss the issue of pension reform. Now, the treasurer's actual proposal, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it came out about a week or two ago. So I mean, I think we are as soon as practicable as we speak. And the legislature is meeting they're having all sorts of meetings, is my understanding, until the beginning of November regarding this issue, and then there'll be plenty more. So I think we're talking about, November 2nd for a meeting with them is hopeful. That's what we're shooting for. And I think we'd all be well appraised of the situation by then, and we could have a very lively discussion with them and the public, and we could air all of our views. And that's that.
Further comments here at the table?
Yeah, I agree with Carol. I think much of what Jim said was nicely said and interesting and certainly true, whereas the resolution is not in that context, so I would move that we wait until we have a meeting with the legislators before we...
Is your mic on, Paul?
Pardon?
My mic. Yes, my mic is on.
Okay.
Sorry, you couldn't hear me? Oh, what I said was that I agreed with Carol, and I thought much of what Jim said was true, and I think it's pertinent, but I don't think that now is the time for us. As I said to him as I came in tonight, he has a way with words when he writes resolutions. Let's not offend them before we ever even meet with them. So I would be for filing this resolution.
And if I can just add my 2 cents here, I just would like to say that I don't think that the legislators have refused to meet. I know that when we did pass the resolution, Jim, whatever that date was, I believe it was in June. I know that the legislators, and maybe we didn't bring it back to the town council table, all contacted, either Steve or Dale, and I think it was trying to get everybody together, and then I think it was also the feel for the legislators as well as some of the town council that waiting for Gina Raimondo's plan to get released would give us some more depth, detail, and for Steve to analyze and really get down to the nitty-gritty. I can understand, what you were saying when you wanted to pass that on to them. They do have 4 dates, as Carol has mentioned. The Senate and the House is meeting October 24th, October 26th, the 27th, and November 1st. And we have heard back with some, hopefully the date of November 2nd will be when we meet with the General Assembly. So with that said, Jim?
Yeah, just a couple of responses. As Polly mentioned, I guess I felt offended. And I know Polly said we don't want to offend them before we talk with them. And leading up to what Carol said, I wanted to influence them with the pain our property taxpayers could face. I wanted to influence them first. I didn't want them to be influenced, as I said in my comments. I didn't want them to be influenced by the special interests. I think we represent everybody here in this town, all groups. I wanted them to be influenced by us, that these numbers are intolerable that we're looking at from the General Treasurer's Office. So, yes, I'm not going to apologize for offending them, because the word I got back in June and July, they didn't want to meet with us because Jim was going to pounce on them. And I was certainly...
I don't think they're scared of that.
Well, no, but...
They ought to be used to that by now, Jim.
Well, that's what I heard through the grapevine. And, you know, it just wasn't this issue either. There was a disability pension issue that was passed, binding arbitration that the Senate passed, that all the cities and towns, including us, said, no, do not go near this. This could be very expensive. I just don't know who they're working for, and I'm gonna hold their feet to the fire on that. I don't know who they represent, but the actions that I've seen on their votes this year, specifically in the Senate, both Mrs. Sosnowski and Mr. Sheehan, they determined the outcome of the Senate vote on binding arbitration. They also approved the disability pension issue, which the General Treasurer said that please don't do it. The cost could be too great.
Jim, could I just very respectfully just say that we stick to this topic? Just don't want to lead us down a path
All right, well, I don't want to go down that path either, but the path is, all of a sudden, we have learned that they're not representing us, because that was a resolution we turned in with our school committee. So they are not representing us in any manner or form. So if you really want to get into battle right now, I'm happy to.
I'm not.
I'm tired of these folks not answering. Our feet are on the ground here. We know what the people need in this town. And frankly, I think we have a lot more to offer than the General Assembly gives us credit for.
And I just want to remember that we will have respect at the table. Carol?
I just want to say, Jim, so long as we meet with them before they vote, I think that is key, and that's what we're doing. And the other thing is, there is a movement for all cities and towns to weigh in on this. And I'm not saying to you for 1 minute that we are not going to do that. By not passing your resolution tonight does not mean we're not going to weigh in on where we stand on this whole pension issue. I think we're going to have to. But I don't want to pass a resolution that's covered with name-calling and insults. I mean, I don't see the need for that.
And I think we also have a lot more information to collect, and I think we need to give our legislators those 4 dates to meet with, the governor and Gina Raimondo to have further discussions. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm going to call for the vote.
Oh, we have a motion.
We have a motion and a second, right? Yeah. Yep.
Motion is to approve.
To place it on file?
No, we got to vote. All in favor? Right?
So all in favor?
Voting for.
Jim has placed a motion on the table to approve his resolution. So all in favor, if you would approve it, if you are opposed to it, or if you want to abstain. So at this time, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
And
I'm opposed.
abstentions. So we have 1 all in favor, the motion is denied, and we have 3 opposed and 0 abstentions. So the motion is not passed. Which brings us to comments from interested citizens. If anyone has any comments, if you could please come to the mic and state your name. Martha.
First off, I haven't been here in such a long time that this young lady down here I could hear. The others were mumbling so that I couldn't hear at all. I blame it on my old ears, but that's why I don't know if it was the microphone or just what. But anyway.
So all of us, you couldn't hear?
I'm here this time for the tourism industry. Now, I had a big part when I worked for Tommy Brent back in the 80s, bringing a lot of people down here, selling them to go to the restaurants, to the theater, to the bar and back, to the hotels. Not many people knew that until his memorial service, but I was a big part of Theater by the Sea. Now, when I first saw or heard on Frank Coletta that they were going to, and at 5:30 in the morning, they had originally, I'm talking about the toll roads, it had started in North Attleboro, and within 1 hour, they had changed it down to the southern part of the state. Because the original notification that I got was in the North Attleboro, and evidently they wanted to get that away from Twin River. So what did they do? They put it down. They want to put this down in the southern part of the state. And I would certainly hope that all of the towns down here get together and not one fiefdom in South Kingstown, one fiefdom in Richmond, one fiefdom. Because on the breaking news today, it was about Westerly, and I'm glad they got in on this. What this toll road will do to the tourism in South County is going to be devastating. Not only, and Hopkinton and Richmond are more concerned with the back roads. Well, I tell you what, I know the back roads too. But on an interstate, when they were built years and years ago, now I called Langevin's office today, and of course, the minute they know who I am, everybody knows me. That's a big problem. So they would let him know. Now the federal government, the state has asked the federal government to give us permission to charge on the interstates. Wrong. The interstates were built so that we could enjoy them. And I tell you what, now look at Mount Hope, look at that bridge over there, look at the Newport Bridge, the Pell Bridge, whatever you want to call it. I just call it the Newport Bridge. There's never enough money. Never, ever. I've lived here 74 years and been active for 50 of those 74. And I just can't believe this state. I have no idea what they are going to find next to tax. Look at all your bills. Look at your telephone bill. You're paying for libraries on your telephone bill. How did that ever get there? Just assess your telephone, your cable, and look at the taxes. One bill of mine, $19 just in taxes. Okay, enough said. I get so frustrated, and after listening to the man from Amtrak, I really liked him. I wish he could have stayed. If it takes 9 years, he said he's been waiting since 2002 for a permit. I just hope, in 9 years, I might not be here. And as my director said, oh, good. So anyway, I think you all know where I'm coming from. And the jobs, everybody talks about jobs. How is this going to help the South County area with jobs? Am I the only one that is thinking of that? And you're going to have a wonderful meeting, my friends, with the legislators. Oh, they're wonderful. They'll go, yeah, yeah, and then they'll do what they want up there. That's the whole problem. Anyway, oh, one last thing. Jim took a long time, so I can talk too. You know, years ago, in 1996, I ran for office. And you know, I never knew why both the Democrats and Republicans were against me. And I went back and I pulled out 3 of my flyers, and I've got them at home, plus a magnetic label and for your refrigerator. And on it, I was so happy the other day when I looked at them, but really happy and sad, because on it, it said pension security. And now, you know the puzzle. The puzzle, I didn't know why my own party put me in a primary, the only woman in a primary in one year. I forget which year it was. Now I understand, because everybody up there was silenced. And those people that are up there, those 58, how are they going to vote? That's a big problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martha. Comments from interested citizens?
Jonathan Daly LaBelle. So I guess it sounds like there'll probably be a meeting toward the beginning of next month, November.
Hopefully November 2nd.
Okay, and I hope that as many school committee members or members of the school department can get pulled into that as well. Because I know they're starting to craft their budget, and if I'm understanding it correctly, you know, if this reform is enacted, basically it'll be, as far as the pension funding, will have negligible impact, if any, on the local budgets. And I know they're looking at, you know, we always talk about the doom and gloom, but that's what they've been looking at. So I just hope that they kind of get pulled in an official way. I think it's a good discussion to have tonight. You know, I mean, the respect is certainly, I mean, I agree with a lot of what everybody was saying. Respect certainly is needed. But I think also there's nothing wrong with a certain level of frustration to say, you know, this is important, and, you know, there's only so much that can be done. And, you know, I think that the legislators across the state probably, and I think that's maybe what's hopefully is going to happen with the cities and towns, is to say, you can't pass the buck anymore. You know, if come up with your plan, whatever that plan is, and all the details, you know, have been out there. But to really kind of make sure that it's clear from the legislators, you know, coming from the locals, you know, the buck can't get passed. Just to touch on, you know, we're just talking about losing young people, and it kind of hit me. You know, I think it's kind of been rambled around in my brain a little bit before, but it kind of hit me a little bit more tonight. You know, we are losing young people, and our state is getting older. And there's been a lot of growth management, not just in South Kingstown, but I think, you know, across the state, that really have, in a way, has kind of maybe encouraged that to happen. And there's not to say that, you know, the growth management that's been in place has not been successful and has not been needed. That I would never go so far as to say that, but I think that maybe, and I see that on the agenda tonight, is kind of what made me think about that. You know, maybe that needs to be evaluated in a little bit of a different way. You know, that yes, you know, children are expensive to educate, and when the buck does get passed to the local level, I think that's how these things come to be, is that the state is not picking up enough of their responsibility, the federal government is not picking up enough of their responsibility, and so locals say, well, it's tough to educate, you know, to pick up the cost of educating our country's children, basically, you know, across the whole country. But I think that that is going to have to be something that is looked at, you know, is in the growth management, what can be done there to maybe make it easier for young people to live in the state, because it's not just, you know, there's definitely a focus on the lack of opportunity, and there's a lot of fairness there. Sometimes I think it's overdone, because I think that, you know, a lot of times people like to go forward with what's wrong instead of saying, well, what's right. So I see some reports that show positive things happening in the state, and I think there's truth to that. It certainly could be better. I mean, I'm not, but I think that when you look at the cost of living, that may be a piece that drives the young people out. And so we are an aging state, and so I hope that, and you guys can't solve this on your own, so don't, I think I say that every so often. I appreciate your service. You guys do a great job. You can only handle what you can handle. But I think as it's talked about and as you use your microphones, and as it happens across the state, it does take, pretty good effect. I'm going to push my limit a little bit here, okay? But I'm going to be quick because I know this has gone long and this has been a longer meeting than what has been typical, okay? But, when I think about, okay, this is just South Kingstown, Rhode Island. What can really happen in South Kingstown, Rhode Island about things that are, so far above us, state and federal and such, okay? I think of what happened in Libya, okay? So some people are going to say, why is this guy bringing up Libya, South Kingstown Town Hall Chambers? That's a fair question. All right, but to me, it's an incredible event that happened, and I hope that people do talk about it across the country, whatever forum there is, because it is an incredible event. And some people might say, should we be there? Should we have done that? And that's a fine debate to have, and you wouldn't have that in this chamber. But the fact is, we were there. There was a terrible person that's now no longer around. All right. The thing that I look at is to give somebody credit. Should we be there? Should we not be there? That's a debate. But the fact is, we were there, but we're leaving a very small footprint on the ground. We spent a very small amount of money, relatively. They can talk about, oh, do we have $1 billion? And to me, I laugh when budget people say, well, we just spent $1 billion on that. We don't have it. Well, I mean, do people look and see what we've spent in Iraq, in Afghanistan? I mean, 8 years later, 10 years later? So I just think that there should be credit given, and I hope that people talk about it across the country, because that is something that was done very efficiently, came in at budget or under budget, in a world where that doesn't happen too often. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments from interested citizens? At this time, I'm going to move on to Town Manager's report.
I have no items to report on unless council has questions on either of the reports provided.
Any questions here at the table? With nothing, I'm going to move on to Town Solicitor's report.
Nothing to report, Ellen, thank you.
Jim?
Question for Nancy. We always have to ask if Mike is enjoying his vacation in Portugal.
Yes, according to his text message this morning, he was having a wonderful time. He's got one more day, though, so he's kind of getting ready to fly back.
Okay, great. And the dollar still buys what he thought it would buy?
I'm not quite sure of that. We'll have to ask him when he returns.
All right, thank you. Lighter moment we needed there.
Good idea. Okay, and there are no appointments because we will wait until we have full town council here at the table, which then brings us to new business item F. This is a resolution authorizing award of contract to Norton Lamb Company, 75 Clearwater Drive, Falmouth, Maine, for computer hardware per the State of Rhode Island Master Price Agreement number 345, an amount not to exceed $41,546, including a contingency, and is further described in a memorandum from the IT Systems Administrator to the Town Manager dated October 19th, 2011, and entitled Server Virtualization and Active Directory Purchase Recommendation. Steve?
There are 4 items on tonight's agenda that pertain to data processing or information technology equipment that's being proposed for acquisition. This is in accordance with the town's capital improvement program. What we're doing is replacing the servers that are used as the hub, as well as the storage facilities and the management software that's necessary. There's really 3 servers that are being purchased here. Within those 3 servers, with the virtualization of the server capacity, it allows us to be able to operate with different operating systems and as many as 20 different petitions within those servers. I'd recommend the council approve as provided in the IT Systems Administrator's Memorandum of October 19th.
Thank you. Can we have a motion?
I move approval of new business item F.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion carries 400. New business item I, this is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Smithco Oil Company, 491 Main Street, Wakefield, Rhode Island, for number 2 fuel oil and for maintenance service for a 1-year period commencing November 1st, 2011 through October 31st, 2012, in accordance with the terms and conditions of the bid specifications at the following price schedules, and they are listed, and I'm not going to continue. Steve?
The town purchases heating fuel for various buildings. The contract that's let really is a contract asking for bids for the transportation costs associated with moving the oil from Providence into the different locations in town. The low quoted price is 11 cents per gallon, and that was submitted by Smithco Oil. We had only 2 bids this year. The second was from Superior Plus, and their price was in at 13.25 cents per gallon for transport. This also provides the maintenance associated with the maintenance of the different heating equipment used at the multiple buildings that use oil in the town. It also provides authorization to the manager to be able to negotiate, if economically appropriate, a price cap. The cap that has been proposed is a surcharge of 10 cents per gallon, with an upside being established based on the day that we enter into that contract. It would allow us to have a cap on the cost of the oil for a period between December 1st and April 1st. We will look at this during the month of November and determine whether the implementation of a cap is in fact in the town's best interest. But I would like that authorization provided by the council tonight, because when we're negotiating the cap, you really need to do it on the day that the price is quoted or the prices change.
Questions here for Steve?
Alice, seeing no questions, I move approval of Resolution I as presented in tonight's agenda.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries 400. New business item J is a resolution adopting the Growth Management Program for 2011 through 2013 as recommended by the Planning Board, as shown on Exhibit 1 attached here too, and is further described in a memorandum from the Director of Planning to the Town Manager dated October 18th, 2011, and entitled Growth Management Program Assessment and Report to the Town Council. Back to Vin.
Hello again.
Hello.
The council will recall we've had a growth management program in place for the community for, well, better than 15 years now. And it has been a successful means of focusing the community's attentions on issues relating to growth. And it's been a very good adjunct to our comprehensive plan. And I think most would agree it's a unique effort among communities. You'll also recall in the past that when we presented this, it's been a fairly grandiose PowerPoint with me droning on for a very long period of time, and perhaps it's try to have some interest in it, but it can be a rather dry subject. But certainly an important one. So tonight, in the interest of the circumstances of the review, I'll try to drone on less lengthily and sans PowerPoint, so that should truncate the presentation somewhat. So
get on with it, Vinny.
Thank you. That was just the intro. Anyway, The Irish in me, I guess, tends to make things more lengthy than necessary. But anyway, the Planning Board has reviewed, in concert with staff, the existing growth management program, which is comprised of 5 general goals, which are implementation of the comprehensive plan, preserve open space. The third is achieve sustainable development. The fourth is the integration of transportation modes, which is like complete streets and consideration of other modes other than the automobile. And lastly, to maintain and improve institutional relationships with, like, for instance, with the university and the fire districts and South County Hospital. The Planning Board's recommendation on this, in this matter and review, was crafted over a couple of work sessions over the summer months. And they basically have, in their correspondence to the council, made 3 findings or recommendations, and I'll quickly go through those. Number one, given the state of residential building circumstances and continued recession, it's recommended that the town forego a detailed presentation on the growth management plan. The recommendation is to continue with the current program for the next time frame, 2011 through 2013, and to monitor trends on a continuing basis. The goals articulated in the program remain valid and form a good framework for the work program of the Planning Board, Town Council, and professional staff. 2, similar to the town's pacing and phasing, which is our building permit allocation ordinance and the zoning ordinance, the overall growth management program may be considered a passive program that ramps up when certain benchmarks are approached or met. Town staff and the Planning Board will work to develop a methodology for calculation of such a benchmark or benchmarks for subsequent consideration by the Council. And 3, the upcoming completion of the Comprehensive Plan 5-year update will provide a detailed work program and implementation schedule that will encompass and define growth management efforts going forward. The Planning Board, and in my memo to the Council, has suggested a motion to essentially accept the Planning Board's assessment and move forward with what we have is a very good program to define our efforts. I had gone through the existing program, which is the 15-page attachment that talks about, among other things, recent trends in growth. You know, for example, the last 5 years, we're averaging less than 2/3 the amount of building permit activity that we saw over the previous 16 years. So in the last few years have been, you know, less still. I think looking on the horizon, I think we have some projects that are building out that have been keeping our numbers up a little bit, but as they build out, we're not seeing projects coming in that would replace them. I think we won't see a cessation of growth, but I think the trend of lesser growth will continue into the foreseeable time horizon, certainly for the 2 years of the growth management program that we see ahead of us. I did have a discussion as well in the document about recent demographic trends. The town did grow 9.7% in the 2010 census versus 2000. That's less than we grew in the previous decade, but what's a little bit deceptive about that number is more than half of the growth we experienced over that decade was attributable to the University of Rhode Island's growth, and some of that is a little artificially stated because in 2000, URI had a bunch of dorms offline, so they were suppressed population-wise in 2000. Those dorms came back online, new dorms for 2010, so we saw this big growth. So about half of our growth was attributable to that. I still think the town had a healthy growth posture, especially relative to many communities in the state, and certainly a sustainable and reasonable level of growth for a community is appropriate. Some of the many communities in the state experience a negative population characteristic over the 10-year period, and that's probably not indicative of a lot of health for that particular community in terms of its demographics. We are seeing an aging demographic, as was mentioned earlier, in the state and the town, And I think some of our efforts going forward, especially in the areas of affordable housing and housing for families, would be well placed because having some balance in our demographic would contribute to a properly diverse community and a healthy community. Exactly how those trends work out is something we need to discuss as a community and figure out where we want to go with it. But there's some interesting challenges, but I think what we've talked about with the manager is maybe later on when the schedule permits, is really drilling down into the census with some comparisons, making a presentation to the council to be more detailed than because the census data is just becoming fully available to us, and there's a tremendous resource of information that's available once you figure out how to get into the census's website and not get booted back out. But we actually attended a very great workshop at the library a few weeks back that a woman from the Boston Census Office and the town clerk was there as well, and it was amazing what kind of resources are available. But however, the Planning Board's essential recommendation is to affirm the existing program and for the next 2-year period, and to work on a methodology to figure out when we should have the more detailed presentation, the annual presentation based on a trigger of growth that we've been certainly below for the last several years. I guess if the council has questions, I'd be more than happy to try to answer them to your satisfaction, or if members of the Assembly have questions as well. So.
Questions here at the table?
I move approval of new business
I'm
item
sorry.
J.
Second.
No?
I'm sorry. Well, the motion is second, but I do have one question.
Oh,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Actually, I have a couple of questions. At some point, Vin, and it doesn't have to be now, if we could have some reporting back on that Schneider Electric.
Oh, that will be forthcoming. There, and that is mentioned in here we've been meeting almost weekly, and we're at the point where they're just about complete with Schneider Electric is doing, they're the town's designated energy service company. They're doing an investment-grade audit of school and town facilities with a target of trying to reduce energy costs for the town and school by 12% minimally. They're just about completed, and they're going to be, with the audit, and they're going to be offering what they call a series of ECMs, or energy conservation measures, for the town and school department to consider. And taken as a package, they would save, at least that amount, the 12%. That proposal will be forthcoming for consideration first by certainly the town manager and also the school superintendent, and then subsequently the council and school committee to go forward. I've been working on that for the last year plus, and I think it's a very interesting and potentially very, very positive in terms of savings that we could achieve. So that will be forthcoming very soon, as a matter of fact, because we have grant money also from the Rhode Island Office of Energy Resources to expand in that respect as well. So I think that'll be a great discussion, and they'll be making a presentation to the council later on after we've refined their program, working the numbers with Steve and John Rashad and the superintendent as well. So.
And then my second question is the affordable housing. What % are we at in the town?
I believe it's 5.9%.
5.9%.
And as a matter of fact, there's a 10-unit that'll be coming. They cut the ribbon this morning at Bayberry Courts, which is a 10-unit Section 811 housing program funded by HUD. And that should be, I guess they should be getting their CO very soon from the building official, and that's operated by the South Shore Center. And those, I took a tour of it this morning. It's a very, very nice facility, very, very nice apartments, small, functional, well-designed. It's going to, and that's going to add 10 units right away to our total. We also are seeing an addition that will be getting underway shortly to the La Casa elderly housing complex on at the east end of Samuel Rodman Street. So that'll add 20 additional units. So we're making some progress in those areas. I think the biggest need, affordable housing, probably is on family affordable housing and some of the special needs groups. But I think we've made some modest strides, and I think those will continue into the future. And it's very important for the community. As I said, it's a need area, it's a state mandate, but it's certainly something that the town needs to consider and address as best we can.
Great. Jim?
Vin or Steve, anything with the redistricting process going on right now? There have been a number of comments brought up by certain legislators that maybe southern Rhode Island doesn't have the population and that the northern Rhode Island has picked up most of the population in the last few years of the census count. But I'm only, quoting. Okay.
The numbers show that it has lost, but the northern part of South Kingstown has gained.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, but the other northern part I was talking about in the paper this weekend, it talked about the growth of the Blackstone Valley, the Lincoln, Smithfields, especially a lot of the jobs up there. And I just didn't know with this redistricting process, there were comments saying that here in southern Rhode Island, there are a lot more secondary homes and that maybe the census should not have counted in there. I'm just catching up with it, but I saw those comments this weekend.
We
Certainly is. Okay, thank you.
I do think the town always has had a fairly significant seasonal housing population. I think that adds some difficulties for redistricting and trying to figure out what that means in terms of, who lives where on the census date and where they should vote. So it presents some challenges. I know the state is working with some consultants to assist the Board of Elections efforts in that respect, but Dale had, we do have good mapping and good ability to integrate GIS into with the census data, so I think that could help that process, or at least so they understand the peculiar circumstances of SK as well as some of the other South Shore areas in the state that have a sizable seasonal population.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I also have just one more comment. Is it possible, and if there's a website I can go check this out myself, to find out like any past legislation from last year that affected South County Hospital? I know there was a new tax put on hospitals. I don't know if that went through. And my understanding is that there may be some current legislation that is going to be moved forward with reimbursement rates with patient satisfaction. So if there, and I don't need to know tonight, but if there's anything, to work closer with South County Hospital and maybe to get some of that information that we as a town can better support South County Hospital, I would really appreciate that. I don't know how other town council members feel.
Ella, just to follow up with that, I'd asked Andy 3 or 4 months ago if he could provide the background of that issue of sales tax, et cetera. So hopefully when he gets back here, I'll be able to get, just on what you asked for, that we could figure out what's happened there, because obviously it's an incredible resource of jobs and high-paying jobs. I don't want to lose any more than we have.
No.
Okay. So, do we have a motion for new business item J?
Carol made item?
So moved.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I think we did. A
I'm-
second.
I
getting
move
late.
approval of new business item J.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries 400. And again, thank you, Vin,
You're welcome.
for all of the work. Last item on the agenda, new business, item K, is a resolution authorizing the town council president to designate the Town of South Kingstown Emergency Operations Plan dated September 2011 as the town's formal emergency operations plan, as further described in a memorandum from the police chief to the town manager dated October 20th, 2011, and entitled Emergency Operations Plan, Town of South Kingstown.
The town adopted the last emergency operations plan, I believe it was October of 2006. Subsequent to that, Homeland Security signed into law a requirement that EOPs nationwide have the same formats. What's then going forward is that the cities and towns, in conjunction with state EMAs, have redeveloped the EOPs, not changing policy, but rather to the proper formatting that is required to meet federal standard. The changes that are being proposed this evening really are changing current format as well as updating personnel contact lists. I provided the council with copies of a CD because the overall document is made up of probably about 30 different elements that pertain to different types of emergency response actions that would be taken based on different types of events that would occur. So I'd ask the council to approve that so that we can then get state approvals in place. Those are necessary for us to be able to continue to receive grant funding through either FEMA or through Rhode Island REMA.
Thank you.
I move approval of new business item K.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries 400. And last, I just want to thank, before we close the meeting, I just want to thank the downtown merchants for their Halloween parade. This is the second year they've done it on Saturday, and I've never seen Main Street so lively and vibrant. It was just absolutely delightful. So with that said, any further comments here at the table before we motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries, meeting adjourned.